Okay. All right. Well, Seattle pandemic no, let's restart. Hello, boys and girls, children of all ages. This is the Seattle pandemic shutdown, day 24, I believe. And they are starting to talk about the reboot as though it is a real thing that is really going to happen, and mayhaps, perchance, they are right. Now, I saw some reporting of an alleged document called Reopening America being circulated between President Donald J. Trump and America's governors, with a plan of sorts, like multiple phases of reopening based on different criteria. Oh yeah, traffic is much heavier today. You know, this is what I've been saying basically. At-risk demos, stay home. Don't gather in large crowds still. Practice proper hygiene. Use PPE. Think about your workplace and what the demands are in terms of social distancing effectively while still going to work. If you can't, then you probably shouldn't reopen your business. And then phase 2, phase 3. Phase 3 is sort of like the last phase. It's where we're getting back to like normal, if I remember the infographic right. And it's like, it's not complicated stuff. I've already repeated it many, many times in these little videos I've been shooting with you guys. Think about chain of transmission. Think about how to break the chains of transmission. Practice proper hygiene, hand washing, social distancing, etc. You have to think actively about these measures all the time. Become a germaphobe about it for a while, right? Until one day when everything is sort of like back to normal and you don't really need to do that anymore. But we might have to repeat all this again in the future if everyone doesn't play it smart. Now, this is the other question. Oh man, the Rockies look great today. The Olympics look great today. If you don't know what the Rockies or the Olympics look like because you're not a Northwesterner or you've never been up here, you can see these two mountain ranges at the same time, and the Olympics look like something out of, actually not the Rockies, what am I talking about, the Cascades. They look like, the Cascades and the Olympics look like Lord of the Rings. It looks like Middle-earth, especially when you're driving through them. It's just kind of amazing. And on a clear day in Seattle, you can see both, which is great. But will people actually practice this, or will they just go, oh hey, pandemic is over, we're going out again and we're gonna go to nightclubs and parties, and then we just have another resurgence? That's the fear, right? And I'm seeing people who, because I live on Twitter, I'm seeing people just repeat the fear side of it. Here's how it could all go wrong. Yes, that's true. And then I'm seeing that's the delusionally pessimistic. Then there's the delusionally optimistic that are like, this is all just nonsense and this whole thing was unnecessary. Now, I cannot for the life of me figure out why people are taking these extreme delusional positions, aside from the fact that they're just acting as a counterbalance to the other people who are delusional the other direction. Now, I've been trying to be a pragmatist about this whole thing, and I think that's where you actually can have a chance to, this is where leadership steps in. Leaders of various kinds, thought leaders, cultural leaders, social media influencers, for the love of God, need to model the proper behaviors for other people. And you also need to do this in person. You need to model the behavior that we need to use to combat the bug. I'm saying this another way because I've already said this multiple different ways. We have to model the behavior, break the chains of transmission, follow the pandemic containment guidelines from CDC. I'm saying ignore the WHO. I think the WHO are corrupt at this point, and we should not be funding them until they get their house in order. Follow these guidelines. Think like the bug. Think like our enemy. How does it get into you? How will it get into grandma? Keep it away from grandma by following proper hygiene protocols and be methodical about it. And this is the thing. We have to be like ruthlessly methodical about breaking the chains of transmission and social distancing. If we do this, we can get things moving again. We can get the reboot started. And the mental health aspect of this whole thing, that's why I declared meme war on COVID back in, I don't know, mid-February maybe early March. I declared meme war because the meme war is helping people's mental health while everyone is stuck at home. It's anti-COVID-19 propaganda that makes people feel better. Now imagine, never mind memes, imagine when we start opening people's favorite things again, right? Imagine the win it's gonna feel like when we get Disneyland open again, right? And there will be doomsayers, and they will say that this is a bad idea and there's gonna be deaths, and there might be. But we can't have the entire world, or at least our entire country, sort of panic-stricken and just being crushed with like existential dread about what's going on. Oof. Am I mad? Am I mad? I might be mad at people a little bit because, see, God lives. See, there's hope in all of this, but there is a potential for further disaster. Now you just gotta accept that that's true, and that like all human actions, there's a potential for blowback. There's a potential for failure. There's a potential for undesirable outcomes, but we cannot live. We just don't live as though every time we leave the house we're gonna get in a car accident. We don't live that way, although that's definitely a possibility. So it's definitely a possibility that we could have further transmission of the bug if we start trying to go back to normal. But we can't sustain civilization with everyone stuck at home not producing. We gotta produce goods and services, or eventually we're just gonna look like a third world country, and you're gonna have scarcities, and then you'll see a spike in violence, you'll see a spike in robberies, things like home invasions. You'll see shortages for medical care, so people will start dying of things that were preventable before this. So we got to get back to work, and we have to do it as soon as we can, and the sooner we adopt the practices, the sooner we get back to work. And then everyone's gonna feel a whole lot better about how things are going. If you see this economy recovering by later this year and things getting back to normal, everyone's gonna breathe a giant sigh of relief, and we're all gonna look back on this and just remember the fighting over toilet paper as like a joke, the memes that helped get us through it, and all the fear mongering. And this is the thing. I personally have tweeted some opinions about this thing that mean I have to eat crow now. I tried to downplay it. I tried to categorize this thing as something easily manageable. I was wrong. So I have to eat crow. But there's gonna be a lot of crow eating because everybody has at least one bad COVID-19 pandemic take. At least one. And we all need to own up to it and all eat our crow appropriately. All right? All right, rant over. Wow, very, very fast drive today. Remember, I go out so you don't have to. Bye.